Welcome to your second lesson on Alfred Tennyson's Charge of the Light Brigade. Today's key vocab and terminology is the word heroism. So heroism is a noun. The definition is exceptional bravery and courage. So synonyms: courage, bravery, fearlessness and strength. And the etymology of that word is from the Latin heros, which means demigod, a human who displays superhuman strength or physical courage, from the Old French hero from the 14th century. Okay, so heroism basically means demigod. So what's his face from Moana? I've forgotten. What's he called? The guy from Moana? My husband doesn't know either, but yeah, the guy, the rock, but you know that, yeah, but that's not helping, is it? Okay, so I'm having a nice little argument with my husband there, but it's the guy from Moana, and I can't remember. I just want to sing the song. Okay, so heroism is today's word. So today's key question is, how does Tennyson explore ideas about heroism in the Charge of the Light Brigade? So the themes of the poem is the theme of heroism, which we've already discussed, and courage, and the idea of duty and patriotism, so devotion to your country. So let's have a look at heroism and courage first. Tennyson highlights the extraordinary courage of the men by emphasising the speed and impact of their charge. Tennyson acknowledges that someone has blundered and made a mistake. This makes the soldiers appear more heroic for obeying orders and charging into the valley. Well, that's one perspective. My perspective is that they were stupid, but I suppose because they're soldiers and they've signed up to do this, it is considered heroic because they're sticking by their orders, even though they know those orders are indeed wrong. Duty and patriotism. In Charge of the Light Brigade, Tennyson presents the patriotic nature of the soldiers. So these men are truly patriotic because they did their duty and charged forward into the valley without hesitation, again, even though they knew it was wrong. So this demonstrates that they are patriotic as they are willing to risk death to defend their country and to defend the honour of their country. So let's have a look at some language techniques. So we're going to be looking at these three quotations below, and we're going to consider what they suggest about heroism and courage of the Light Brigade. So for each quotation, you're going to be thinking about the heroism and courage shown within it. So quote number 1, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell. Quote number 2, theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do and die. And quote number 3, honour the charge they made, honour the Light Brigade. So let's have a look at the first quote, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell. So personification is used in this one. Personification is when something non-human is given human qualities or features. The human feature in the quotation is mouth. What has been personified and why has Tennyson done this? Death has also been described as having jaws. What does this imagery help the reader to understand about the battle? And 3, this line suggests that the soldiers charge into certain death. What does this tell about the soldiers? So I'd like you to spend a minute thinking about this quotation and thinking about why Tennyson has included this. Why has he used the personification of the mouth? And the is death of being having jaws? What does that imagery do? So have a think about that. You might want to annotate the quotation by writing it down, or you just might want to make some notes to yourself, and we can feedback in the chat as well. So just a minute to think about that one. Okay, so here are the answers that I've come up with. So death has been personified. This is significant because it is the commander who has sent them to death, to the mouth of hell. Could be a metaphor for the human decision that is made to send the brigade into battle. The mouth represents the commander. Jaws implies that the battlefield is animalistic and savage. The reader understands that the soldiers are in a ferocious and untamable situation. And finally, the reader understands that the soldiers must be incredibly brave to charge into the valley of death and face the mouth of hell. They are very heroic for losing their lives to defend their country. Okay, next quote. Theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do and die. So what does this quotation suggest about the soldiers' behaviour? The soldiers are aware that a mistake has been made, but why do they not reason why they are being sent into the valley of death? And what does Tennyson mean by do and die? So again, You might want to write the quotation down and annotate it and make some bullet pointed notes to yourself. Then we can feedback in the chat. So I'll give you a minute to think about that question. Okay, so these are some of my ideas. The quotation suggests that the men do not question their orders, despite them being poor orders. Furthermore, the soldiers are obedient and bound by their duty. The soldiers are not in a position to question a person in authority, so they accept their fate and courageously charge into the battle. And their role is to do and die, which means they must accept the orders and do their job as a soldier, even if it means risking their own lives. Okay, quote number 3. Honour the charge they made, honour the Light Brigade. So Tennyson used the imperative verb, which is a commanding verb. So like when someone tells you to sit down or be quiet or shut up, it's a commanding verb, honour. Who is he commanding to honour the soldiers? So who is Tennyson commanding to honour these soldiers? Why might Tennyson have used the repetition of the word honour? And what is Tennyson's perspective, his viewpoint of war in these lines? Okay, so this is a nice, easy one. So why use the imperative verb honour? Why repeat the verb honour? And what do you think Tennyson's perspective is of war? Okay, so give you a minute to think about that. You can answer in the chat box. Okay, so the imperative verb honour is Tennyson's instruction to his reader to respect and admire the charge of the Light Brigade. He uses repetition to emphasise his message that these men should be glorified and celebrated, and the reader can infer that Tennyson believes that war is honourable and noble. Okay, so as you did yesterday, you're going to have a go at this question on the same assignments tab that you were on yesterday. How does Tennyson explore ideas about heroism in the charge of the Light Brigade? Bit of a challenge, words to include: heroism, courage, and the word glorify. You should spend about 15 minutes having a go at this. You may wish to consider their bravery in charging into the valley, how the brigade is glorified by Tennyson, and think about whether they are heroic or simply powerless in the face of authority, because there's definitely a conflict here. So before I send you off to do that, let's have a look at an example. So, how does Tennyson explore ideas about heroism in the charge of the Light Brigade? Tennyson presents heroism and courage of the Light Brigade who charged into the valley. The refrain in the first 3 lines, "Rode the 600, emphasises the bravery of the 600 soldiers who continued to ride into the battle even though they knew death was likely. Tennyson highlights the courage of the men to the reader because he acknowledges that someone had blundered. This makes the soldiers appear more heroic for accepting the orders and charging into the valley to defend their country." So that's a really simple what, how, why paragraph. So head off to the assignments tab and complete that question. Spend about 15 minutes. If you have time at the end of that, you should go to Sentry and complete the nuggets on this poem. We expect that to be done by the end of the week.